What's happening, everybody? On today's show, the absolute latest on the transfer portal and the SEC, some recruiting nuggets, and the SEC just continues to dominate the NFL draft. Locked on SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. On today's show, we've got the latest on guys in the transfer portal, including South Alabama linebacker Khalil Jacobs. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Admit it, you've got a competitive side, and you need to be a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on the classic Monopoly game. Join your friends, download Monopoly Go now for free in the App Store or Google Play. All right, we got to jump into it as we do with the transfer portal. There is a lot going on, and interesting name to watch over at Alabama and Auburn is a guy named Khalil Jacobs. He's a South Alabama linebacker, and he's a former player of Kane Wommack, who is the defensive coordinator now at Alabama. Khalil Jacobs entered the transfer portal the end of last week, and Alabama is very much a team to watch, according to multiple reports out there. The Tide offered him during the winter transfer process before he ultimately withdrew his name. But there's been some serious buzz with the Crimson Tide and Jacobs. There's a big connection there, like we said, with Kane Wommack, who served as his head coach the last few seasons. Saw one report said they spoke with Kane Wommack, and they are looking to get him on campus very soon. 6'2", 218-pound linebacker, had 56 tackles, 8.5 tackles for a loss, 3 forced fumbles, and an interception last season. And he told On3 Sports that Alabama, Auburn, Duke, Indiana, Missouri, NC State, and Tulane have all reached out to him since he entered the portal on Friday morning. But linebacker has been a big position a lot of teams have been looking to add. And while Alabama likes what they have at the position, they could certainly add there. Auburn, they just added some big pieces on the defensive line, but they could certainly add him to their linebacking core as well. So we'll keep an eye on that one, but Khalil Jacobs, the Kane Wommack connection, would make a lot of sense for him to end up at Alabama. We'll keep an eye on that one. All right, over at Mississippi State, man, they have been striking out left and right. Oregon State transfer running back Damien Martinez, one of the best running backs in the portal this offseason. He officially committed to Miami over the weekend. His other two schools were Arizona and Mississippi State. And he saved his last visit for Miami. That's where he went this past weekend and left there, committing to go play for them. Now, he will join former Pac-12 quarterback Cam Ward, who also transferred there this offseason. But Martinez was one of the best running backs in the country last year. It was all Pac-12, rushed for almost 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. And Mississippi State was hoping to add him to their bunch. Another ding Mississippi State took. Transfer commit running back Rashad Amos has reportedly flipped to Colorado. He ran for over 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns at Miami of Ohio last year. Well, just 2 weeks ago, Rashad Amos committed to Mississippi State. Well, now he is flipping his decision to Colorado. He spent 48 hours in Boulder earlier this week, and now he's going to play for Deion Sanders. Now, Coach Prime also lost their running back, Dylan Edwards. He went into the transfer portal, and so they needed to replace running back there. So Rashad Amos is going to head to Colorado. He's a former South Carolina transfer, played in 13 games with the Gamecocks, but had a breakout year this past year at Miami of Ohio. Ole Miss was also another school that had reached out to him. He was the number 2 available running back in the portal. So again, Mississippi State missing out on him. Now, one to keep an eye on is running back Davon from Utah State. As a junior last year, he rushed for 800 yards on 120 carries with 6 touchdowns. So that would be a big pickup for Mississippi State and Jeff Levy. So Davon Booth, running back from Utah State. Man, but you strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, maybe they get this guy. All right, over at Ole Miss, former Michigan DB and Ole Miss commit Amarian Walker will reportedly enter the transfer portal again. Walker spent 2 seasons at Michigan, committed to Ole Miss this past January, and after just 3 months with the Rebels, he's hitting the portal again. Will be the 19th Ole Miss player to enter the transfer portal this offseason, but Ole Miss brought in 19 players through the portal, so no harm, no foul there. Over at Kentucky, former Michigan DB DJ Waller is going to transfer to Kentucky this upcoming season. He spent 1 season with Michigan, will have 3 years of eligibility remaining, appeared 11 games this past year, mostly on special teams, recorded 12 tackles and 1 pass breakup. His 4 tackles against UNLV was a season high, but he is the second transfer DB that Kentucky has added this offseason, along with Alabama cornerback Christian Story. Kentucky's brought in 11 total players via the portal, ranks number 17 overall, their transfer portal class. But, the big one was Brock Vandagriff, their quarterback. Another note here for Kentucky, it sounded like they were going to be landing Louisville running back Peny Boone, and that looks like that's not going to be happening. From Nick Roush over at Kentucky Sports Radio, Boone will not be transferring to Kentucky. The issue reportedly stems from an academic matter involving credits that will keep him from eligibility at the school. Roush wrote that KSR learned he won't be transferring. Players do now have the green light to transfer as many times as possible without losing any eligibility, but they still must meet certain academic requirements. So Boone started his career at Maryland, where he spent two years before transferring to Toledo, where he was the past 2 seasons, and then entered the portal this offseason, committed to Louisville, and obviously that didn't stick. 3 months later, he's back in the portal and was going to come to Kentucky, but it sounds like academic issues going to hamper that. So, man, it's like your head spins when you're talking about some of these kids. It's like, wait, he played this school, then he entered the portal in December, landed at a new school in January, and now he's back in the portal looking for another new school. Craziness. Over at LSU, former running back Trey Bradford, who also played at Oklahoma, he has re-entered the portal. He entered the portal in December, committed to North Texas, but he's on the move again. North Texas was not right for him after spending the spring with them. Spent the majority of his career at LSU, did spend the summer of 2022 at Oklahoma. LSU fans may remember this. In their season opener against Florida State this past season, first play of the game, Jaden Daniels dumps it off to Trey Bradford, who takes it 55 yards down the field. Trey Bradford started that game at running back for LSU before giving way to Josh Williams. But Trey Bradford on the move yet again. Also, LSU cornerback Jeremiah Hughes, he's going to visit UCLA on Monday. We'll see where he ends up. Over at Texas A&M, they missed out on Colorado running back Dylan Edwards. Kansas State landing him. He will have 3 years of eligibility remaining. Nebraska and A&M had both made efforts to land him. Ole Miss had also reached out, but Ole Miss seems pretty set at running back now with their room. Over at Vanderbilt, running back Diego Benson has entered his name into the transfer portal. Did not see any time on the field this past year for the Commodores. 6'1" running back out of the state of Texas, was part of the Commodores recruiting class last year. Over at Tennessee, former edge Tyler Barron visited Miami over the weekend. He entered the portal in the winter period, initially committed to Ole Miss before flipping to Louisville, and he has since re-entered the portal. 4-year player at Tennessee, coming off his best season of his career, had a career high 28 tackles, 6 sacks, recovered a fumble, was named SEC D Lineman of the Week. And he had 2 sacks in the season opener against Virginia. Also, former Tennessee linebacker Elisha Herring, he took a visit to Colorado and will be visiting Kansas State next. So we'll see where he ends up. Over at Florida, they will get a visit from the top available interior offensive lineman in the portal. That's USC's Jason Zandamela. He is a true freshman who enrolled at USC for the spring semester, but he's already looking for a change, trying to get closer to home. Has already taken a visit to Central Florida and now looking to visit the University of Florida. 6'3", 305 pounds from the Clearwater area. Over at Auburn, Transfer defensive lineman Brenton Williams. He was in the portal. He is committed to Liberty. Brenton Williams on his way to Liberty. Former Auburn wide receiver Jay Fair has committed to USC. He will go be a USC Trojan. Just had 31 catches, 300 yards, and 2 touchdowns this past year. And then former Auburn cornerback Colton Hood committed to Colorado along with his brother Brandon Hood. Over at Arkansas, former defensive back Snacks Johnson has opted to head back to Baylor. It's where he spent 3 seasons with the Bears before transferring to Arkansas last year. And now he's going back to Waco. Over at Alabama, center James Brockermeyer is expected to commit to TCU, according to Matt Zenitz. 3 seasons with the Tide. Brockermeyer helped Alabama as a rotational piece on that offensive line. This spring, he worked with Alabama's first-team offense, but still decided to enter the portal. He will end up at TCU, where his twin brother played after transferring from Alabama. So there you have it. That's the latest on the transfer portal. Goodness gracious, a lot going on there. All right, when we return, we'll hit on recruiting. Where are those guys going? We'll hit on that here in just a second. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. First episode presented to you by our friends over at Monopoly Go. All right, game off. You got to pause here to hit on Monopoly Go. Flag on the play or whatever it is. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. You can get unique stickers. You can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. They got cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges, a ton of mini games, digging for treasure, a robot pachinko machine. There's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win, or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now. You can find it on the Google Play or App Store today. It is game on with Monopoly Go. Go check them out right now. Going along here, Locked On SEC. Want to ask you guys, you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you got to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch with Locked On Sports Today, free 24/7 sports streaming channel. Bring you all the latest stories of the day without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. All right, let's dive back into it. We got plenty to discuss. We did transfer portal. Now we switch our gears over to the recruiting side of things. And the Texas A&M Aggies picking up a recruit yesterday as they picked up 4-star cornerback Jamar Beal-Goines. He committed to the Aggies. Beal-Goines is a 3-star prospect, ranked number 624 nationally, number 61 cornerback in the 2025 cycle, according to On3. They rate him a little bit higher than the other major recruiting services. In fact, so that's the industry rating, but just the On3 regular, not the industry ranking. They rate him number 22 corner. So just On3 has him way higher than the On3 industry ranking, which takes all the different recruiting services together. He visited College Station earlier this month, said it was a great experience, had a good relationship with the coaches there. So Jamar Beal-Goines, that's hyphenated, going to the Texas A&M Aggies. How about over at Ole Miss? Lane Kiffin getting a recruit this past week in Buford, Georgia, 3-star tight end Hayden Bradley. In a bunch of schools in his top 5, including Florida, South Carolina, but he commits to Ole Miss. Said he had a really good visit. When he visited them a few weeks ago, said that was going to be tough to beat. But the 6'5", 215-pound tight end privately committed to head coach Lane Kiffin and his staff last week before publicly revealing his decision on Saturday. He told On3 Sports, "That place is special in my eyes. Nothing compared to that visit. It was just a different feeling." He is the number 79 player in the state of Georgia. He said, as I was driving in towards campus, it just felt like home. It reminded me a lot of Georgia, state of Georgia. As soon as I stepped foot on campus, they took me in with open arms. Coach Kiffin is really big into high school recruiting. He texts me every day, calls me once a week, show me a lot of love. I also like how they've used Caden Prieskorn these last few years at tight end. He's going to be one of the top tight ends drafted next year. They definitely know how to prioritize the tight end in that Ole Miss offense. So congrats to Hayden Bradley, tight end from the state of Georgia, committing to Ole Miss. How about over at Missouri? St. Louis three-star linebacker Jason King came down to Kansas State and Missouri. And after talking with his family and coaches last week, he committed to Missouri on Saturday. He told On3 they were expressing to me the importance of being able to build something at home. They said we could build something special together at Missouri with a special class and change the trajectory of the program forever. He's 6'1", 210 pounds, and wanted to play for a program that could compete for a national championship. And he said one of the biggest reasons I chose Missouri because of the relationships I have with the coaches. It's a really good fit for me. It's a place where I think I can really excel. And of course, Coach Drinkwitz taking a big step forward with the program this past year, beating Ohio State in their bowl game, getting to double-digit wins. He said they're climbing up and they are going really fast. They can compete with a lot of the top programs. They almost beat Georgia last year. They beat Ohio State. You see where that program is when you match up with a lot of the teams, and Mizzou showed that they belong with the top teams of the country. They proved they could compete and win a national title. So that's all from three-star linebacker Jason King committing to Missouri over the weekend. And look, if you buy into the trajectory of Missouri, remember, you only got to go, in the SEC now with the expanded playoff. You only got to go 10-2 to make the playoff. And once you get there, who knows? So Mizzou absolutely could be a contending team for a title this year. How about over at Oklahoma? Houston area four-star cornerback Cortland Guillory committed to Oklahoma. Chose them over the likes of Texas and Texas A&M. He told On3 that OU recruited him harder than any other school, and he could definitely feel he was a need and not a want for Coach Venables. He said OU made sure I was a priority for them early on in my commitment, and that played a big role in my decision. He's the number 354 overall prospect, the number 32 corner on the On3 industry ranking. He's the number 57 player from the state of Texas. He said, what stood out for me is that Oklahoma staff treated me like family, relationship with the staff and everything else. 6'1", 170 pounds. And Oklahoma's putting together a really good class for 2025, ranked right around top 10 right now. So we'll see where they are when it's all said and done, but continue to add good players to the mix there. One to watch over at LSU. They have five-star wide receiver DeCorian Moore, committed to LSU last August, but he's been taking visits and kind of keeping the lines of communication open. He's 5'11", 175 pounds, and some reports that there are some programs emerging as legitimate threats, including Ohio State. The Buckeyes got DeCorian Moore on campus this past weekend for his second visit this year. It's the number 3 overall prospect, the top-ranked wideout in the class of 2025, the number 1 player from the state of Texas. Earlier this month, On3 Sports talked with him. He said he remains solid, committed to LSU, but Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas are all pushing him hard. So we'll see where he ends up. Ohio State currently has the number 1 recruiting class in the nation on the On3 recruiting rankings. But Moore has made it known that the trust in LSU is still there. Says he sees the vision in Baton Rouge. They've got the number 1 quarterback coming in, 5-star Bryce Underwood, the number 1 recruit in the cycle. He said, it's always been home there. When I committed there from the start, it was just relationships that I built there at LSU. So he is planning to take official visits to all 4 schools before coming to an absolute final decision. But Ohio State pushing hard for DeCorian Moore to pull him away from LSU. All right, there you have it. This is the latest going on in the world of recruiting. Still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Coming up next, SEC always making history when it comes to the NFL draft. We'll talk about what they did over the weekend in the NFL draft. That is next. Well, first, I want to remind you guys, this episode presented to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It is playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. What are you waiting for? Go get in on the action right now. It is FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make sure you put that website in, FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's what's going to get you that special offer. Go make your first bet an automatic win. And they got everything up there for you from, like we said, if you want to get in on baseball bets every night, the NBA playoffs, my goodness, those have been so exciting and a lot of close games here and there. So go check them out. It's FanDuel. They are America's #1 sports book. Download the app, but before you log in and get that set up, make sure you go to a desktop site and go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. You can even do it on your phone. That'll get you set up and take care of it. Is FanDuel, again, America's #1 sports book. Also, this episode presented to you by our friends at Game Time, the authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball. Makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. You got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and that lowest price guarantee. Game Time is going to take all the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. Or, hey, look, if you want to start looking at SEC tickets, I know a lot of tickets just going on sale for some of those big season openers, like LSU versus USC in Las Vegas. Go check it out right now. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege, get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem our code LOCKEDONCollege, get $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. It is last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, continue on here, Locked On SEC. And look, we just had the NFL draft over the weekend, and not going to spend a ton of time on it because I know a lot of you only care about your college team. And look, when star players go on to the next level, I'll watch them, root for them, but really your passion and dedication lies with your college team. So that's why we spend most of this show talking about current college players and where they're going to end up and that sort of thing and how it's going to affect the SEC this coming year. But do want to point out some things that happened over the weekend. After the end of the NFL draft, the SEC totaled to 34 draft picks in rounds 4 through 7, and that brought the total to 59 athletes drafted overall through all 7 rounds. Crazy stuff there from the SEC. It's a lot of guys. And, of course, a lot of undrafted guys that signed undrafted free agent deals the last 48 hours. But Georgia, they get to hold on to a Kirby Smart record that they set back in 2022. Georgia produced 15 overall draft selections coming off that national championship team, 5 first-round picks, including Travon Walker, who was the #1 pick. But some people thought Michigan could make a go at that record. Jim Harbaugh was very vocal about it. And in the end, Michigan wide receiver Cornelius Johnson was the final player drafted, and that gave Michigan 13 players selected in this year's draft. So 13 for Michigan this year, but Georgia still holds the overall record for most draft picks in a given year. That was 15 in 2022, and there's a 2-way tie for second place. That's Ohio State in 2004 and LSU from 2020. They both had 14 players taken in a single draft. But a few other notes on this one. The Jacksonville Jaguars had the most picks from an SEC team this year with 6 players drafted. So if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, you got to be excited about that. They actually went a couple LSU players right off the bat. I believe it was Brian Thomas Jr. in the first round, Mason Smith in the second round. I know they got Javon Foster, the Mizzou O-lineman. They got Jordan Jefferson, the LSU D tackle. They got DeAndre Prince, the Ole Miss corner. Cam Little, the Tennessee kicker. So, yeah, Jacksonville Jaguars loaded up. The Cincinnati Bengals extended their streak of picking an SEC player to 27 years by drafting 5. Chicago Bears and Pittsburgh Steelers were the only teams that did not make a pick from the SEC. The Bears had 5 choices, Steelers had 7. So Come on, Bears, Steelers, what are you doing? You know where the best football is played. One other note I saw from over the weekend, Nick Saban did a great job on the panel for the first round with the new College Game Day crew, breaking down a lot of the picks. But he made a little bit of history over the weekend. Will Reichard, former Alabama kicker, got selected on Saturday, drafted in the 6th round by the Minnesota Vikings. That meant Saban has now sent a player to the NFL from every single position, including kicker, long snapper, and punter. Well, Reichard was one of 10 Alabama players selected in this year's draft. Even Mr. Irrelevant, Jalen Key. He was the very last pick of the draft from Alabama, but Crimson Tide saw 3 members of last year's team go in the 1st round. J.C. Latham, Dallas Turner, Terrion Arnold. Of course, Kool-Aid McKinstry went in the 2nd round to the Saints. But during Saban's 17 years at Alabama, he helped produce 133 draft prospects before his retirement. And now you close out that book saying he had literally got somebody drafted at every single position, including long snapper, punter, and now kicker. Pretty crazy stuff there. A little bit of a fun activity I saw. A couple of the websites already doing 2025 NFL mock drafts. So it's kind of interested to look ahead and see what current SEC stars they think project as 1st-round picks next year. CBS Sports on theirs, they had Mykel Williams, the Georgia edge rusher, going 3rd overall. Harold Perkins from LSU going 4th overall. Georgia quarterback Carson Beck, 6th overall. Is Carson Beck the best quarterback or NFL prospect for next year's draft? Tyler Booker, Alabama lineman, they had him going 10th. And rounding out the rest of the 1st round, Prince Umanmielen from Ole Miss, Quinn Ewers, Texas quarterback, A&M wide receiver Noah Thomas, Arkansas edge Landon Jackson. How about this one? They got Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe, projected to go 25th overall in next year's draft. Georgia linebacker Small Munden, Texas A&M D lineman Shamar Turner, and Georgia D lineman Nazir Stackhouse. So that's a lot of SEC guys that CBS Sports projects to go in the 1st round next year. Now, Pro Football Focus, they did a mock draft of their own. They have James Pierce from Tennessee going number 1 overall. The edge defender. Pro Football Focus writes, Pierce became one of the most fearsome pass rushers in the country this past year. Freakish explosiveness, 6'5", 242 pounds, converts speed to power at an elite level. So that will be interesting to see if James Pierce, he was awesome last year. If he has another monster year at Tennessee, not crazy to think he could be the top pick in next year's draft. And lastly, draft related, thought this was pretty interesting what Steve Sarkisian has done at the University of Texas. But this draft ended up being a historic one. 11 players from the University of Texas heard their names called. That was a new program record for Texas. Not even the Mac Brown days had that many guys drafted in one draft. Steve Sarkisian came out and sent a message, said that how proud he was of the 11 players who were drafted. And for years, there was not much development coming from Texas. They would sign high-profile players, but then, there were years where, the highest Texas player got drafted, the 3rd round, 4th round. So big turnaround there for Sark. Tells you he got some really good talent now. And so going to be interested to see if that number goes up even higher coming into the SEC with some even more talented players playing at a high level. And there you have it. That is the latest going on all around the conference and NFL draft and everything else. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. For your second listen, go check out Locked On Sports. They're Locked On Sports Today. It's our 24/7 streaming show covering the top sports stories of the day. You can find it on YouTube or the Amazon Fire TV app. So again, Locked On Sports Today. That is what you need to go find. That's going to do it for me, Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. Come on back tomorrow and check us out right here on Locked On SEC, covering your team every day.